If you ask any NASCAR trucker, they'll say they're the toughest, the fastest, or the one to beat. Maybe some of them are right. Most of them just have the confidence to think they are. But a few times a year, the Area Truck Series field will head to a place that demands respect and can make it a miserable time for those who don't. Tonight, it's the racetrack that may be the biggest competitor, a place that's been around a while in NASCAR history. And though most have seen up the sleeve of the lady in black, she's got a dirty bag of tricks that she'll pull out anytime she feels like it. Expect the unexpected and respect the expected at the track too tough to tame. Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, joined by Connor Horn for the 8th round of the 2024 Area Truck Series here at Darlington. It is throwback night, liveries representing cars from decades of NASCAR history. And tonight, Connor, we race at one of the most challenging tracks on the calendar for 120 laps.
And it is certainly challenging. I think it's going to be more challenging than ever tonight because usually this is a race that goes maybe late afternoon into the night for this 120-lap feature. Not the case tonight here in Darlington. A full-day race starting pretty much at noon. The track is hot and slick. The track temp's probably 130 degrees or at least close to it, and it is still getting hotter. So we have 41 trucks registered to tackle the lady in black during the day, which is unusual for this series. It's going to be interesting. Passing is going to be at a premium, and tires are going to be at a premium. They always are, even at night, but during the day, they're going to get chewed up that much more. It's going to be tough for these drivers if they weren't anticipating this.
Yeah, here's a look at the track temperature right now, 127 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's only going to get hotter, I think, throughout the afternoon. And you mentioned the tire wear. That's always a factor to consider here at Darlington, but especially so in the daytime here. But some great paint schemes. We'll look at as many as we can throughout the evening here, but there are some really good throwbacks for the night. We'll try to keep you updated on who is in what and what the truck is representing. And as we saw last night, there were some cars out there that were what I would call obscure picks, but as I was reminded in a private message, it's not always about how famous they were. It's about extending the legacy of some of the drivers that shaped NASCAR history, whether or not the livery itself was mundane or one of the ones that you associate with history. But really cool to see, and a number of them that we'll look at tonight in this 120-lap race. Big list of EOLs tonight, Connor. Naughty, naughty boys and girls from last week at North Wilkesboro, so it is a long list of drivers that will start at the tail.
And we'll go over them during our starting lineup, but that's what happens when you have 18 yellows in one race. North Wilkesboro was wild for pretty much all three series. Jonathan Evans, a race winner in this series. David Weishart, a former winner in this series. Series champion Brad Slaughter. There are just a few of the names going to the rear, and don't even get started on the drive-thrus for Edward Shear, Jeremy Miller, Rafe Slate. They will have work to do fighting for the lucky dog once they're done with their drive-thrus. They're going to have to be very, very careful to not cause anything tonight. It could be the end of their seasons.
It is almost blindingly bright down there on the racetrack with this middle of the day event. You can see the heat shimmer off in the distance as we look down the straightaways. Look all the way up into, that's the exit at turn 2. You can see just the heat coming off the racetrack. Great looking effect that you don't get to see a whole lot here in iRacing. But qualifying is underway, and Connor, last night we saw a lot of drivers shift and shuffle throughout the field, but you were one of the drivers that kind of started a little bit deeper in the field, and it took you a while to get up to the front. So what's it like tonight making passes? Is it a big deal to start out back, or would you rather just start right up at front where you can hold those spots?
I think it's going to be more important, your starting position tonight, and I think you'll want to start at the front. It's going to be very hard to pass. Last night, you had 200 laps. It was a long, long race, the longest of the season. So starting at the back wasn't a big problem because you had time to get to the front as we look at Ricky Springer on track. So you had time. There's a lot of give and take at the back besides the one driver that walled me, ruined my race. Let's not get to that. But really, it's going to be different tonight. If you start at the back, you don't have 200 laps to wait and be patient and get to the front. You have to go immediately. We're probably lining up for maybe 2 green flag stops if it goes green, maybe even 1, but I'm anticipating 2. So you don't have a lot of time to wait. You kind of got to go right away. So qualifying is going to be very, very important. You need to start at the front with how hard it is to pass tonight as Ricky Springer goes third. Sebastian Marin, already multiple wins this season. He's on provisional pole for the time being. John Hall and his Tony Stewart Coca-Cola throwback. He's the reigning winner here in the Truck Series. Won last season, but during cooler conditions as Seth Knoll coming through 3 and 4, throwing back to Kevin Harvick's championship season in Busch in 2006. He's looking for his first Truck Series win of the season.
Yeah, and on the number 51, that was Cole Trickle, Days of Thunder. Throwback to, I guess that's NASCAR history in some sort or another. Here's the 38, and this looks to be like one of those Great Clips cars. Great Lips is a different website. Patrick Moose is his first real-life Truck Series win with Front Row Motorsports. That was the 2023 Talladega race with Brett Moffitt. I take it Patrick works for the team.
He sure does, and that was a big win for Moffitt. It was like his one truck start that season. It went to victory lane in a second Front Row Motorsports truck as Justin Asogak, I believe, throwing back to the Batman scheme that Dale Earnhardt, I think that Dale Earnhardt Jr. broke his 4-year winless streak in. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I don't think I have the sheet for that, but I'm going to guess my best. This is a throwback to last week on the 89.
Same with
Jake Matheson, same.
Some of the drivers have bigger visions than others, it seems.
I think he's fine with throwing back to himself because he's the recent winner, won at North Wilkesboro in that 18 caution affair.
Now, this one, I would have said last night, I guess was a dirty word, mundane, but it's not. This is actually a historic car. This is the number 90, which is the only number 90 in NASCAR history to win. Jody Ridley in 1981. That's a cool paint scheme to throw back to for Devin Johnson. Unfortunately, though, only 29th quick in qualifying.
Looks really, really sharp as well. Number 25, this could be any of the Budweiser Hendrick Motorsports trucks.
Schrader is the driver that he's going after here, but that'll end his qualifying run.
Yeah, that's just a slight tap with the wall. That's going to be trouble for Drew Trader. Not just Drew Trader, but everyone all night long. That outside wall of turn 2 comes up in a hurry. You got to be very, very careful on the throttle because you might throttle up too early going to the wall, or the rear will come around and you'll slap the wall, go back to the inside wall. Got to be very, very careful as a 07 comes across the line. That's a throwback to the old number 75 for Reese Schaefer. I know he's throwing back to a specific driver, but a lot of drivers have driven that car, that truck in the past.
I didn't fill out the form, so I don't know exactly which one it is. Ed Scherer Jr. in the 17, making his way around, and this is a driver that's a little bit on eggshells tonight, Connor, so he's got to be careful. And he is also serving a drive-through, so this qualifying effort will really just specify where in the field he will start before he serves that.
The 75 is a throwback to local driver. I believe it said Bobby Gill. I'm looking in the paint check because that's where John Peel put it for his driver Schaefer. Bobby Gill, local driver, Sarasota, Florida. That's who that is in honor of, and it looks pretty sharp. But yeah, Scheer's in big danger. If he causes anything tonight, fully at fault, he's out for the season. So he has to drive very, very careful. And you do not want to have to come into Darlington driving careful.
Bryce Senesac got a really nice paint scheme on board after one of the Mobil 1 schemes of the late 1990s, Jeremy Mayfield's Mobil 1 scheme between 1998 and 1999, and he is not quite going to get another practice lap in. He's qualified 33rd, but qualifying is complete. Sebastian Marin is going to start on the front row alongside Matthew Batby in the number 89 here, Connor.
And Marin's won 3 of the last 4, 3 in a row, Charlotte, Dover, Sonoma. So he has been the driver he's the driver to beat right now. Saying that, he's still second in points to Jake Nichols, who has 0 wins, but Marin has been fast. Him starting at the front is going to make it even tougher to get by him.
And we'll go over some more points picture situations here in a few moments' time as we get closer and closer to the playoffs here. But race fans, make sure that you're subscribed to the Area iRacing Twitch channel. That goes for you if you're on YouTube as well. Head over to twitch.tv/Area iRacing and subscribe. As a subscriber, you'll have Area iRacing emotes to use in the chat, and you can earn double channel points that you can use to redeem for free merchandise for just $5 a month. Join today at twitch.tv/Area iRacing. Connor, you pointed out points pictures. Well, Jake Nichols is leading the championship standings, but a driver that made big strides last week was JT Poole in the number 26. Now, where is JT? We didn't notice him tonight, did we? Is he missing this week?
Not here currently, so that would probably put him back outside the top 20, but he did gain 5 positions with a runner-up last week. He has not missed a race until potentially tonight, but that's going to make it a lot harder the last 4 races of the regular season to get his way in without a victory.
And then Travis Beckner, he'll get to keep his starting spot tonight, but he has got some work to do in the championship standings as well, down at the very tail end of those that would be in on points as it stands. But his finishes have really not been all that inspiring this season. His best is an 8th. That came back at Sonoma on the road course, but other than that, it was a 10th and then a 15th. So he's really got to find some magic. The pace is there. Needs a little bit of luck to get that truck up into victory lane or a little bit farther up on the playoff board.
And I don't even know if he's in right now because he's 12th in points. 13th in points is Connor Yarashak, who does have a victory. So I believe he would be out by 2 points behind Trey Eitzen. And then you got to factor in Jonathan Evans. He won at Daytona, but it has not gone his way since. He has that victory. If he's in the top 20, it's winning year in, and he's good. But he's down to 22nd in points. He needs to have something go his way tonight.
And it's going to be a tough night for Evans as well because he will start at the tail of the field. And I don't actually know how they order them as far as who gets the EOL first. Maybe it's in order of the number, maybe it's in order of when the issue was. But you know this answer?
I think they usually do it by number. There have been talks to change it, but right now I think they just go by car numbers. So the guys
which will help Evans, actually.
That will a little bit, but the guys with the higher truck numbers, they are not too happy about it, I'm sure.
And Darlington looks good in the daytime, doesn't it? This is a recently, I guess you could call it refreshed Darlington. It doesn't look great from the sky, but down at the racetrack level, this looks really good.
Oh. You see a lot of rubber going to that inside wall.
Yeah, now, talking about the turn 2 exit, because this is where we see most of the problems. Turn 2 and turn 4. We see a lot of multi-car incidents happen at the exit of 4 when cars squeeze each other, but turn 2, Connor, that's where almost everyone knocks the wall down. Why?
It's just a single file part of the track, and if you're going double file, you're done anyways. But even when you are single file, it is a loose corner. You got to be on the throttle to get through 1 and 2 with a bunch of speed to go faster on this racetrack. But you can't full throttle out of turn 2. You got to lift out of a throttle just a little bit to get to the bottom of a racetrack. The problem lies where the track meets the apron, where there's not as much banking. So if you don't see that, you could clip the apron and you're going to slap the outside wall if you hit that apron just wrong. You get your left sides anywhere near that apron, clip them wrong, you're just out of control. It is very, very slick over there because of how tight of a corner exit it is, and that wall comes up in a hurry, and if you hit that hard enough, you're hitting the inside wall. So you got to be very, very cautious on how you exit. You need to arc it late, but even that's dangerous with how slick it is with the rear tires. So that's going to be a big trouble spot tonight.
Well, let's head to our Central Mobile Home starting lineup. Looking for a small or large home, a new shed, or a triple crown trailer? Look no further than Central Mobile Homes. They've been proudly serving Florida customers for 28 years with a plethora of small and large home floor plans, shed designs, and triple crown trailers. Available in LaBelle, Okeechobee, Clewiston, and Sebring. Head to centralmobilehomesinc.com to get started today. And let's roll through that starting lineup. On the front row, Sebastian Marin is riding a wave of success. He'll roll off alongside Matthew Batby Connor for the top row in row 1.
And then a pair of teammates on row number 2, Seth Nolan, the Harvick throwback, and Jake Nichols, who we'll see load on in a minute. And a Maximum Destruction throwback looks pretty sporty. They're both in row 2.
John Hall rolls off in 5th in the 03 Ford F-150. Michael Venable in the 95 starts in 6th.
7th position is going to be the 12 of Connor Yarashak. He's in a different paint scheme, but he is in the 12 on the ticker. He starts 7th. Champion Brad Slaughter Jr. starts alongside him.
Jake Matheson starts 9th in the number 52 Ford F-150. Drew Jua rolls off 10th in the number 13.
And Jua has an EOL, as does Slaughter. Ricky Springer, I believe, does not. He will start in the 11th position. He'll be alongside Trey Eitz in the number 70 truck.
Pacey Wygent in the 00 starts in 13th place. Justin Anasogak in the 88 starts 14th.
The Underbird throwback, I believe, Joshua Balliet starts in the 15th position. And 16th position, that throwback to local driver, Reese Schaefer starts in the 16th position in the 07 truck.
Danny Ware starts 17th in the number 98. Jeremy Miller starts in 18th place in the number 30. And he's got a drive-through penalty to serve in the early moments of this one.
Patrick Moose and that Brett Moffitt throwback starts in the 19th position. Jonathan Evans, we highlighted his EOL penalty. He qualified 20th on speed.
Mason Kane, 21st place in the number 31. And Daniel Day in the 61 will roll off in 22nd place.
It is actually a parking lot. Look at all those drivers going to the back. Garrett Grant will start 23rd, or maybe a little higher up because he does not have to go to the rear, nor does Travis Beckner, needing to get up there in points. He starts 24th.
25th place is Edward Scherer Jr. That number 17 driving on eggshells tonight. James Shanewolf in the 83 starts 26th.
27th position to the 50 of Case Lacotte is going to the rear himself. Rafe Slate not only going to the rear, but a drive-through penalty for him as well.
And Gary Waterworth starts 29th in the number 2. Jeremy Brown in the 87. He's got an EOL. He would have started 30th.
31st position, the 62 of Tyler Hallman. I haven't seen his throwback, but I believe he does have one. 32nd position, not with a throwback, but starting where he qualified, or maybe better, Eric Wineland in 32nd.
33rd place, Bryce Sanasak in the 09. Devin Johnson starts 34th in the number 90.
35th place, the 33 truck, always fast, David Weishart. He did not qualify because he'll start there anyways. Julian Ballard has had a decent run last week. He'll start 36th.
37th place, Lucas Strayer in the number 41. He's got an EOL. Drew Trader in the 25, starts alongside him in 38th. Trader will get to keep his starting spot.
Yeah, big W for the guys who are going to move up numerous rows. Look at the EOL line, how far back it goes. 39th position, Sean Peach in the 69 truck. Adam Capps, who I don't know if he made a start last week, he starts 40th, and Dean Gagliano starts 41st position. 41 truck field.
A quick look at who we've got on boards with tonight. There are a number of them, and the first of which is Ricky Springer. Daniel Day's given us a perspective inside his ride tonight. Travis Beckner is bringing us on board. So is Bryce Senesac as usual. Jake Matheson is also giving us his onboard. Texting while pacing.
Hey.
Naughty, naughty. And Eric Wineland is giving us his view, as well as Devin Johnson. So those are our onboards. Connor, pick me a winner in these last two corners before we go green.
Seth Knoll starting third. He's hungry. 4 cup wins already. I think he gets it done.
Jake Nichols was denied last night. I think tonight's his night in the 73 truck from 4th. We both picked teammates, both on road 2. Let's see how it pans out. 120 laps. We'll get this race over in 1 hour, unless we get some yellow flags along the way. Highly possible with the amount of aggression as we get closer to the playoffs. Here we go. Darlington, the track too tough to tame. A hot race in the daytime. Green flag, and we're underway. Already trouble for Valadez. He is stopped on the front straightaway effectively, and everybody scatters.
I think he spun the tires a little bit or something, and it just caused a crash, but everyone kept it straight for the time being. Side by side, Knoll and Venable, but they sorted out before the exit of the corner.
That was pretty quick thinking by everybody to keep the truck straight. That just gives you an idea how challenging restarts might be tonight with the gearing we've got and the lack of grip in some of these tires. A little bit of side-by-side there with the 70 of Eitzen, and that's the Connor Urashak truck to his inside that has completed the pass.
Yeah, they're already single file. Joshua Balliet will jump out of line for the 15th position on the 00. Pacey Wygen, the Scott Bloomquist throwback. Fortunately, lost him not too long ago. Great third driver as pass-throughs are underway. EOL is already served. Balliet, that's the issue going to the bottom in 1 and 2. If you don't complete that pass, you could get lined up by a number of drivers. Shane Wolf goes by in the Batman throwback. Eric Wineland trying to follow through.
Yeah, that was a real big problem last night. When you were on offense, you would end up kind of getting run over. If you didn't complete the pass, someone else would sneak by you or get up into the outside lane and push you back a few spots there. As here comes Wineland up to that outside lane with more overlap than he had, and now the 7 just wants up, but Moose will deny it.
Oh, that's a tough place to be, though. Moose barely held it off of the right rear of Joshua Balliet as Slate, Miller, and Shearer rejoin the fray. Valadez goes low but kept it straight, but that's the issue. They're just going to keep lining you up and not give you a break. This race is too short compared to last week to give too many breaks, and Patrick Moose is not giving him any right here.
No, dropping now down a 4th spot, what he had about a lap and a half ago. Mason Kane's going to jump up to the outside as well. It's like reverse Martinsville. You want to get up to that outside lane, but you can't just force your way there. It's tough to hold the bottom out of 2.
Yeah, and when you have to lift that much, not only will that driver go by, then you're going to have another one line up to go to your outside. Now it's Danny Ware looking for what is now the 20th position, and you're just fighting for the 15th position. That's how far the 7's fallen in doing this, and this is still really the only side-by-side battle. Everyone else has single-filed out. Balliet finally finds a way up after just letting Danny Ware by.
This is a place that can be hard to pass, absolutely, but with the tire wear, you're going to get comers and goers. Last night, I think Adam Cabot did a pretty spectacular display of saving tire for that last run. He sat and kind of held up a train of cars for a while before he began his launch, and it ultimately won him the race. Will we see that tonight with drivers kind of over-slowing the first 2 laps to save some tire for later?
I think we might see that. I could see it. I wasn't very close, but I could see it was pretty extreme what Cabot was having to do to hard save the tires. So I think if someone can pull that off, it's going to be very, very good as Venable and Hall go side by side out of the corner. The issue is if you get stacked up behind someone, you lose so much time, and if you're not saving as much as that guy backing you up, you're not going to be able to go forward with him. So you got to be very, very careful on what you do. You got to be careful where you go side by side. We keep talking about turn 2, but it really is the trouble spot. When you go too wide out of that corner, you could lose at least 1 second per lap. Seth Noren at 31.2. Euroshak and Venable, they ran almost 0.8 of a second slower than that because of that incident out of turn number 2.
You just have to carry so much momentum, and anytime you lift, you just give up so much time there. It's like when you're coming onto the front straightaway at Road America and you just miss the apex, it just burns you for 30 seconds plus. Same thing with the exit of turn 2 here at Darlington. little bit of raciness just outside the top 5, but the front runners are still separated by about a 1/10.5. Marin over Batby. It is close, but I don't think it's in danger of flipping and flopping here.
Not currently. I think everyone's pretty stable right now just to ride in a single file line and not force it. Maybe if we get maybe 10 to 15 laps further in this run, we might see the strategy change just a little bit, but I think everyone's just fine where they are right now, especially Sebastian Marin, who leads with the clean air.
So how much of this is clicking off laps tonight? Are you going to settle into a groove? Is it a rhythmic track like a Bristol where you just kind of got to run lap after lap, or are you on attack mode as much as you can be?
You can't really attack here without slowing yourself down. You got that. Someone has to give you the spot, really, when you're going to attack. And if they don't give up that spot, you're just losing yourself time. This is definitely a track where you have to get in a rhythm and get in a flow before you even start attacking. Like Ricky Springer, he's taken about 10 laps. Now he's starting to look to the inside of Michael Venable, but not enough of a run. So I think you just got to take some time here just to get in a rhythm. It's looking like strategy-wise this could be a one-stop. He has a crash. Tyler Hallman in the inside wall down the back straightaway, but we've talked about this all the time. The yellows are kind of weird here. If it's not on the racing surface, it will not be a yellow.
Yeah, I think he might have had someone else tangled up in it out of 2. He just gets loose and takes Weishart with him. Weishart was able to slow it down and pull back onto the racetrack, but Hallman gets the worst of it.
It looked like Hallman just got loose, and we were talking about that, how slick it is. If you miss your exit out of turn number 2, you're going to slide and maybe going that inside wall, but you just got to be very, very careful with that. Hallman's the first one to really get bit by it as we're still single file, but that's what we're talking about. You got to get in a rhythm, and then maybe you try attacking drivers, but you got to get in a flow here.
Shane Wolf in the 83 under fire from Patrick Moose in the 38. Moose pulls even with the 83. When you get to this point in the corner, someone's got to give or you're both going to go slow, and that time Shane Wolf, I think wisely in that circumstance, gives that spot up. Here's Beckner in the 28. Moving forward, he started 24th.
And the Joker throwback, that's him and Shane Wolf are matching this week, Batman and Joker. It looks really sporty. He's trying to get through the outside of his teammate, Daniel Day, who's in the normal Hendrick County Motorsports Park colors. Looks like Day will concede a little late. Beckner into a wall, and he hit it pretty good. Contact, Daniel Day's around. Oh, he saved it. Wow.
That was a great save.
Look out, not over. Ooh, man, gotta be careful getting back onto the track, but I think he's good.
Yeah, I don't know that he'll be stoked about this, but let's have another look at it. We go in side by side. Beckner up the racetrack, that kind of bounces off the wall, comes off it just a little bit, knocks Day down, but that was a good save there by the 61. Didn't overcorrect, overcompensate. He'll end up 25th, but with the truck pointed in the right direction.
We'll have to see, but I think Beckner might have gotten the worst of it. I think he tried to give a little more room to Day because I don't think he thought the 61 would give it up. I think Day gave it up a little later than he anticipated. I think that was, I couldn't even tell who that was, maybe the 09, but Day gave it up late. Beckner gave him just too much room, and he really pounded the outside wall.
Beckner now works on Schaefer here on the 07. This is for 12th. Pulls even and actually ahead of Schaefer, and I think Reese will just tuck in line.
Not really something we saw last night either. That outside line in 3 and 4, it was okay exit, or it was better entry and center, but you had no grip on exit if you were off the inside of the track. You would just hit the wall if you weren't careful. So I've seen a little more maneuverability there, probably because of the way higher temps. Track temps 132 right now, and it's not going to get any cooler anytime soon, as Patrick Moose has really been the aggressor tonight, but Just Anna Sogak is not giving it to him. Excuse me, not Anna Sogak. Keep getting those mixed up.
Yeah, it's running similar color. Oh, a little contact there as
YJ
pulls back in. There's Shane Wolf and Mason Kane right behind, but you pointed out the track temperatures. We are already at 1.2 seconds of fall off, which is, I think last night the most we saw was about 1.7, and that was 50, 60 laps into the run. Now there was enough fall off that you could play some strategy with it and had to save some tire, but tonight it's going to be double that, I think, by a similar point in the run, as Ricky Springer has dropped off timing and scoring, and
he's out.
Yeah, frustrating.
That is tough because he was having a pretty decent run there. But yeah, the tires, it is going to be pretty interesting. It looks like the fuel can make it to halfway at lap number 60. The question is going to be if you want to, because of how much fall off we're seeing right now. And he was running in the 7th position, so that's really going to sting for him if he's not going to get back into this race. But the tires are definitely going to be at a premium. It could push drivers towards a 2-stop.
Yeah, you know what's frustrating, I think, for Ricky is that he lost connection to the server, but At least on the Zoom channel, he was in the whole time. So it could have been a VR. No, he's not in VR anymore, is he? So that is annoying. Kept connection everywhere but iRacing. As Balliet looks at Mason Kane. Mason was on offense on the 83 of Shane Wolf, but now is on defense with the 7, and here comes the 21 of Wineland.
Maybe pushed a little bit too hard. I think he and Shane Wolf had contact at the start-finish line. I don't think it was harsh, just a bump to the 83, and he's into the wall a little bit there, but definitely looks like maybe he pushed a little too hard and starting to go backwards, but not conceding the spot to the 21 of Wineland. And just watch Joshua Balliet pull away when they're side-by-side like this. If they make it out of turn number 2.
Oh, Julian's going to get into him.
Wow, he saved it.
Didn't even react to it, just comes right back on the throttle and actually hangs onto the spot too. Not the one he was going for, but over Jua. And I think Drew probably had an opportunity there to read that a little better when he saw the 21 on the bottom. You know that he's going to have to lift. You can't stay full throttle down there. But they were lucky to come out the other side.
That's just how tough it can be. But Jua, I think, did well enough to back off just a little bit as we see the leaders get a little closer, about a 1/10 and a half. 2/10 to Marin, from Marin to Batby. They pulled away from Nichols in 3rd, Nolan 4th, but the 89, he's still hungry for a race victory. Has been close, hasn't gotten it yet, but looks pretty fast at this point compared to his teammate.
Yeah, 20 laps in, and he's matching pace pretty well. Was actually a half 10th quicker last time by. What's it like following here, Connor, as far as the aero wash is concerned? Everyone's kind of running similar lanes.
I'm more concerned about someone getting to your rear bumper. I think aero matters a lot. It gets incredibly tight, and that's why part of it's tough to make a pass. 69 Peachin down to the apron, but he kept it straight. But I'm more concerned about when someone gets close to your rear bumper and gets you loose. If someone gets close to the rear bumper, they are going to loosen you up big time. You're going to struggle to get out of the corners. So that's what I'm more concerned about. The aero push is still tough, but if someone gets right behind you, you are going to be in trouble as Shane Wolf has a slide.
That takes the air off the spoiler when you're right in behind. Again, these trucks have the newest oval racing aerodynamic model that is bespoke to these trucks. They're not shared with anything else on the service. And I think that model we've seen at times this year with some of the accidents on the 1.5-mile racetracks makes these trucks a lot more susceptible to aerodynamic forces, which is, you know, quite simply what you see a lot in the real world. And Marin, his lead has effectively evaporated, and actually, no, he's working by Ricky Springer, who's rejoined. I thought that was Batby, but it is not. Here's Batby, though, trying to run him back down.
Springer on fresher tires, now from 4 laps down to 5 laps down to 4 down. We got a crash maybe in the back. Something happened. Oh, now there is. Shane Wolf got the boot from Jonathan Evans.
Well, there they go, the 9. There's
9.
Evans. And he'll also keep it straight. Trucks everywhere, but none of them spin.
I think something happened down the back to Shane Wolf. Maybe that's where it started, but somehow it's ended.
Wow. Who was... No, the 13 was down there as well. And then they just continue this. Let's go back again. Maybe it was between the 21 and 83.
There's just a bunch happening in here.
Yeah, again, the 21's on the bottom here. Tough place to be. 83 swings down, tags the 21. Then 13 gets into the 83.
21 saved it. Danny Ware went to the apron.
Wow.
Just avoid that. That's a big slide job. Then Shane Wolf got the boot from Evans. Then Evans slid, had to save it. There's a lot going on there, and they're still not quite done. I saw Daniel Day and Brad Slaughter had big contact. Shane Wolf still backing up. A pretty dangerous part of the track at this point. Looks like the 2 of Waterworth is by. Slaughter Day. 83's in trouble right now on the right rear.
And a Sogak down heading to pit lane. Is this a potentially scheduled stop here?
Well, this is very, he was running 11th. This is really early if it is scheduled. I don't know if it can be, but I don't see why else he would have hit. No damage on the 88. Pitting at lap 25, this would be a 4 stop if this was scheduled.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe he's just trying to set it up for a different math number to the end here. If there was an outlier chunk that you want to kind of delete and then make the rest of the race equal parts. But I don't see anyone else really doing that, so we'll see if that is a valid strategy or not. And Sogak is in his stall and gone. 14.1 second stop, so 4 fresh tires and he's away.
I guess clearly scheduled in some capacity. There's a lot of fall off. You know, obviously there's been a lot of fall off. Even the race leader, Sebastian Mayer, his fastest time at 30.7. He's 2 seconds off of that at the front. So maybe there is something to that. As James Shainwolf pits, which isn't too surprising because he was sliding big time. But yeah, that much fall off could provide an extra stop to these drivers who were thinking of maybe getting the halfway.
Gary Butterworth on the bottom there. And Daniel Day and Brad Slaughter Jr. side by side behind out of turn 4.
And Day and Slaughter have been fighting hard between these two. They had some contact. I think Day's going to get the spot here. Slaughter just kind of gives it to him. Maybe not. Tries to cross him over out of turn number 2.
Yeah, but then where do you go?
I don't like that.
Yeah. Crossover feels good because you get this big run down the banking as Peachin has another big slide. But once you get to the bottom, then what do you do? If you don't clear him, you have to lift. So it's almost, might as well set up and wait for a different opportunity.
Pretty much what you have to do. At crossover works almost anywhere else. Darlington's not a place where it will happen unless you can clear them before the turn number 2. That's what you got to be careful of. As trying to see another person pitting, Garrett Grant from 31st, or excuse me, Drew Trader from 31st. Oh, Lakatos in the wall. That
fast spot of the racetrack too. I don't know that he'll get out of it.
Kept it straight. I was noting Drew Trader came to pit, so really only drivers 30th on back of pit so far. Well, besides the 88, he was 11th. So I understand the guys at the back doing it, but 88, a little bit puzzling for the time being.
33-second laps nearly. Our best was a 30.7-ish run by Sebastian Marin, so now we are 2 seconds off pace, so already more fall off than the Cup cars. And we're only about 30 laps into this event.
And Marin's starting to extend that gap. Bappy stayed close for as long as he could, but it doesn't look like he has enough pace to stay up there. And that is James Shainwolf on fresh tires coming through. Bappy still has about 9/10 of a second to third place Jake Nichols, but Marin's starting to extend that gap.
Yeah, so with 2 seconds of fall off in 30 laps, this is probably one of those racetracks, one of the only tracks that you can make an extra stop work. But we still have seen that strategy deployed a lot less successfully than just big overcuts, which has kind of been, you know, what we've seen most of the winners do at these tracks, just run really long and save and kind of get as much of a tire advantage for the last run as they can, even if that's at the expense of the mid-run pace.
Yeah, that's just really what's going to make things interesting. If it continues to fall off even harder than 33 flats, which is what Sebastian Marin just ran, I think that might even bring more people into a 2-stop. But if it kind of levels off here, you know, even if it levels off here, it might bring people to pit road earlier than they want.
Back temp continues to climb, 134. The hottest we've seen is 144 this season in area. Battle between Wineland and Daniel Day on the front straightaway. A little contact there between those two.
And at that point, Day's not really close enough to dive into one. If you're not fully alongside trying to pass to the bottom, I don't think you can make that move and dive it in there. But he did, and it's going to slow him up a lot side by side out of the corner, and he won't get that spot. And that'll just let the 81 have another run, but I think he's going to let the 61 have it. But you need to be fully alongside. You might even have to have the nose in front to have the audacity to go into turn 1 side by side. It's a tight there as much as it is in turn number 2, and maybe just as dangerous with how hard you can pound the outside wall. So you got to be even to make that move just a little too far back, and it costs them a lot of time.
You're really aggressive. You can hammer that apron and try to cut the straightaway or the entrance to the corner as much as you can, but you've got to know that you can catch the car up the banking. Now, you know, a little factoid that we launched last night, which was a surprising fact, I didn't know about it until pretty late, is that the original configuration of this racetrack, all the area that we're racing on above that white dotted line was supposed to be runoff area for the track that's underneath it. And so that was designed there with higher banking to kind of save cars if they ran wide, but everyone quickly figured out that it was quicker to run in the higher bank portion, and in true NASCAR fashion, they just never enforced the track limits, and we got this. That's why it's so narrow. But still to this day, you can use all the paved surface, bottom, top, or otherwise. And that means if you want to use that bottom area to try to make a pass, you can, but you lose a lot of turn-in down there.
Saw Danny Ware do it. He kind of tried to make a pass down there, how low he went. It kind of reminds me of when I always think about Texas, I think about when they made it. You know, they have the normal track, the normal banking where they thought NASCAR would run there. Then the apron, which was really just less banking, they tried to make IndyCar run there. And IndyCar and IRL, they were all like, no, we're not going to do that. And instead just ran on the normal pavement that we run on now. I always find that story interesting too.
We saw a lot of drivers use the extra track to their advantage last night. Haven't seen quite so many employ it this evening, but I just imagine right now, everyone's spread out. We're clicking laps away. Everyone's trucks are driving terribly by this stage. 36 laps into a 120-lap race, so they're just trying to survive. And not a lot of drivers are taking those big swings. Now, you see so much aggression, Connor, when everyone's comfortable. I don't think anyone is right now.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's comfortable. And I think the issue with pitting here is everyone's scared that they're going to be trapped by that one yellow that comes out. That's why I think you'll still want to see drivers will still want to see everyone go long. I saw David Weishart peel off the pit, but he had a bunch of right front damage from the incident with the 62, who's out of the race. So still a slow trickle of drivers in the pit lane as Matthew Backby just had a moment out of turn number 2. As Eric Wineland comes down the pit, he's a little further up in the field than most pitters have been. If you're going to two-stop, this is around when you'd want to do it.
Yeah, you'd pit at lap 40 and lap 80 if that was your decision. Here comes Garrett Grant on Mason Kane here for 16th place. Now 3 and 4 is a little different than 1 and 2, and it's not just because the radius doesn't have the same speed that 1 and 2 does. See a big wiggle there from, I think that's Waterworth and the 2. And because it's slower, you get a little more options as far as lane choice without knowing you're going to smack the fences. It's getting racy back here.
Yeah, Miller hit the fence. He's still a lap down from the EOL, and he'll just let Gary Waterworth on through. As yeah, it's just really, really tough to kind of piece together these two sets of corners. Sometimes if you just get in a groove too much, you'll get lost, and you might end up thinking one end of a track is the other, and then you might really be in a pickle if you forget your braking zone, as Yaroshak has had a big moment there. He's up to 5th, but that just shows how all these fast drivers are struggling. He tried to get to the inside of Knoll and just came up a little bit. That was, excuse me, Valadez had a little slide down the front straightaway. This is why you're not going to pit, because you see this type of racing and see drivers getting sideways. You do not want to get trapped by that yellow, as Valadez just hit the wall again, as John Hall is now into 5th over Yaroshak.
Here comes Matheson as well in the 52. He had a tough night last night. Kind of rebounded for, I think it was 11th or 12th, but pit pretty late in the going there and kind of, I guess, borked the strategy that I thought he was on. So I think he's looking for a little redemption tonight. Battle's kind of formulating all over the racetrack in different places. There's Kane Waterworth again, and that was a big hit there for the 31.
Yeah, that was a big one. I don't know if he's going to be able to continue well with that. I mean, that was a whack, and he's sliding off of turn number 2, but he saved it, but you could see how hard he hit.
And pitters up front, Seth Knoll and Connor Yaroshak are down on pit lane, and this is right on time for that two-stop strategy that you were talking about.
It's just very risky with how treacherous the conditions are on track. We've seen so many mini incidents that haven't brought out the yellow quite yet, as Mason Kane pits. Bryce Senesac just peeled off, still waiting on Sebastian Marin. He has a 1.3 second lead off of Jake Nichols, and Nichols actually he had a lead over Bappy. Jake Nichols is going to peel into pit.
That was a late turn in too. This pit entry is so hard to get down to under green flags conditions, but this is not what the drivers that got EOLs and Mason Kane has completely missed his pit stall. He might get a black flag just trying to get into it. No, I think he made it. There he goes. But my point being is that all the drivers that had EOLs or drive-throughs, this is not the race that they were hoping to see. They wanted to get some early yellows to get those laps back, but green flag stops usually means we could go green for a while, although with how treacherous it is to get onto pit lane, we could see yellow sooner than that.
And this pit entry, it's a hard pit entry, but it's one of the few pit entries where you have options. You can peel off before the entry to turn 3 and just ride the inside wall out of the corner, as Valadez looks like he had a slide again. But if you want to, you could push into turn number 3, kind of on the apron bottom line, and then peel down late. That orange cone in the frame, this is one of the rare tracks on iRacing. You have to get below that orange cone. If you don't, it's a penalty, so you got to be aware of that as well.
It's just the track's so wide. You have to pull all the way down, away from the direction to travel. You're fighting physics to get down there. It's John Hall, and he's navigating through some lap traffic, and then he's got the 52 of Jake Matheson just ahead of him. And as far as pit stops to this point, those that have a 1 next to them have made pit stops. You'll note that the top 21 have not made pit stops, but pretty much everybody after that has.
We saw Justin Nasogak, who was pretty much the first driver to come down to pit lane, so he's on pretty old tires, but the first on that strategy. And then it's Jake Nichols a little further behind that with very fresh tires, as Hall let Matheson by not too long ago. We could be seeing these drivers try to pull to that one-stop strategy, but they could also be trying to trap everyone a lap down. That's pit, as here comes Brad Slaughter, and this was the options we were talking about. He pulled all the way to the inside wall in turn number 3 and just rode it around the 4, but that wall juts out and almost throws you off there. Got to be careful of that, as Marin is coming down the pit.
And he's going to do the alternate strategy where he pulls down late. They all seem like they're kind of the same speed. Obviously, the one to the inside is a little more conservative, but Aaron's in after leading the opening 44 laps of this race. Matthew Batby is going to lead his first on lap number 45. And, you know, you documented that he is just sitting right in position for a race win this season. He's 4th in the championship standings, has finished 3rd twice. He is due for one, isn't he?
It seems like he's due, but he's got a lot of work to do to get by the 32 as he overshoots. And that's about as much as you can push it on entry here at Darlington without hitting those barrels at all. Matheson will keep the lead.
Man, that was close. And Connor Urashak, I think, had just gotten disqualified for having a black flag, but for what and for how long?
That's confusing, actually. I wonder, I don't know. His pit entry looked clean. He got under the orange cone as he's coming down to serve a
speeding.
He got speeding on pit exit,
and
which
disqualification.
Looks like
never served it.
That is interesting. He's had a lot of poor luck with penalties, like at Dover, for example, and this is just another one. He's going to be taken out of contention for a top 5. Gary Waterworth is going to come down to pit as Urashak exits the race. Mason Kane also exited the race. Tyler Hallman, Rafe Slater also done for the night.
Yeah, that's frustrating because he will have known that he had a black flag. We didn't know it, but he certainly did. And you get 3 laps to serve a penalty like that, and unless he was arguing with a different radio channel and didn't, was trying to maybe state his case, it didn't make it to the right people. And a pit lane speeding penalty is almost never going to get cleared. So he just stayed out there and got disqualified. Maybe he knew that the race was over anyway for him, but it's not a short one tonight. You've got plenty of time.
83 just had a big save down the front. Eric Wineland got into Shane Wolf entering 3. Shane Wolf slid hard.
These two have been unkind to each other tonight, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been all over each other, and this is for position. They both come down to make their stops. So,
yeah.
And Miller's on old tires, and Shane Wolf checked up for him, and Wineland did not. But it was a pretty good save either way for the 83.
We've had a lot of wrecks. Sorry, Connor. We've had a lot of wrecks that never really formulated, right? I mean, just so many that just never fully happened.
That's why Jake Matheson's staying out, because he sees all these many yellows. He's probably wondering, come on, one of them has to trigger the yellow, and I can keep these guys a lap down. But that won't happen because Marin is now back on the lead lap. But at this point, he'd probably have to take a set of tires with how harsh the wear is. So those guys who pit early, they do not want a yellow to fall until all these guys come down the pit.
Yeah, 14 drivers, at least the first 14, still have yet to pit. There's a few others that have not come down, like Casey Lakatos. Reese Schaefer and Patrick, no, that's actually the Weishart. Reese Schaefer is a lonely 6th right now. Travis Beckner up the road, P5. And Travis, again, looks like he's going to extend. They only need to go another 10 laps, Connor, to reach that halfway point and pull off the 2-stopper. But as I said, with all this fall off, actually now 3 seconds worth, is it 2.2 seconds worth? There might be enough over the course of this race to claw back a lap, but it's going to be tough.
Matheson just got a piece of the wall out of 2. It's not even safe if you're the race leader. He didn't hit it hard, but just pretty wiggly out of the corner, so you just got to be very, very careful at this point. You do not want to be the caution at any point, as Matthew Baffey is trying to lap himself. right now.
Do you notice, I mean, the last time I drove Darlington in a league race was years ago for me, but do you find it that you can run 50, 60 laps, 70 laps, 100 laps without hitting anything and everything's fine, and the second you touch that wall, every lap for 20 laps, you're smacking it?
It's just always how Darlington is. I know on the long run where my car was still damaged last night, I hit turn 2 with damage a little bit, and I was like, all right, well, that sucks. I slammed it even harder the lap after that, and then I think I hit it one more time after that. I got in a groove after that, but I think it is 100% true. If you hit it once, it is hard to avoid it because you think your car is going to grip up differently, and then it just doesn't, and then you're just stuck in a pattern.
And one of the things about Darlington that makes it so challenging with that corner exit is once you're committed back to the throttle and once you're heading towards that outside wall, you either get it or you don't. And by the time you realize that you didn't get it, you're in the fence. There's just no backing out of it. The momentum will take you there. Is this little scrum here for about 11th spot. Jake Nichols in the 73. Jeremy Brown is in this mix in the 87. And that's the 2 of Waterworth. And he is a lap down.
And Nichols is a leader on this strategy right now, I believe, of the drivers who have pit. Sebastian Marin maybe 3 seconds or so behind. He's about 20 seconds behind Jake Matheson as the 57 of Valadez has dropped out of a server as well. So that's 2 drivers tonight. But
was that a connectivity issue? Just
looked like it.
Okay, interesting. Keep a track of it for my issues.
Just looking at times right now, Jake Nichols ran a 32.6 in traffic last time by, but the lap before that, he ran a 31.9 when he really wasn't in as heavy of traffic, and that's almost half a second faster than Jake Matheson. So I do like the extra pit stop. You're just putting a lot of faith in the drivers around you to keep it green.
Yeah, he is back 17 seconds, which, I mean, we're getting to the halfway point now, and if you look at being back 16 seconds, Connor, spin, front straightaway, it's the 5, and he's down on the apron. Garrett Grant was in the top.
It might be a yellow.
10.
Doesn't look like it will be.
It will not be. He was... that was a miscommunication, I think. Looked like he was trying to get out of the way, maybe, and it just didn't.
So we're talking about the yellows. This is yellow everywhere but here. It's almost to the point where I think Ricky Springer just asked if yellows are turned off. But that's how this track is.
Sometimes I like it, though, right? I mean, if the track's clear, why do you need it?
Yes. Yeah, that was a miscommunication. There was no contact, actually.
He spun out.
He got on the flat, and there's a little bit of a banking change there still, even on the front straightaway, and it got the truck unsettled.
Yeah, you almost brought it out right there. That was close.
That's what I was thinking he was going to do, but he did not, surprisingly. Still waiting on the race leaders to come down. They might still have about 8 laps left of fuel for Matheson and a few others.
I think if you're committing to this, I think you need to mathematically commit to it. But by that, I mean come in on the end of lap 60.
Oh, my goodness. Marin's 3 wide down the front, excuse me. That is not, you do not want to see 3 wide here, as Shearer is the one to back out. Goodness. Sorry, I see 3 wide at Darlington. I think the worst. Goodness.
Well, because you can't do that in the corners.
You can barely do it on the front. I mean, you have room, yes, but
having room and keeping it. It's like the old famous quote: if you no longer go for a gap that exists, and the critical part of that no one ever talks about is the gap's still got to be there when you're in it.
If gap car, and that's kind of what that was.
Adam Jabay, our motorsports director, has said that has crashed more cars in racing history, that one quote, than any other quote.
That's just a lot of scraps around the track right now. Jeremy Miller and Edward Shearer both got EOLs, and they're actually battling for position still on track. Pacey Wygant is in 7th, still yet to pit. Danny Ware, I don't believe has pit either, going backwards to some drivers.
Well, he just got passed by the first truck that did pit, which is Jake Nichols. So that, to me...
Whoa, Shane Wolf sliding out of 2-4, excuse me. He kept it straight again, excuse me.
I mean, once you start getting passed by trucks that have pit, we're at lap 61, so extrapolate that. I mean, this is going to be the halfway point. Extrapolate that to the end.
Here we go. John Hall's pitting right now, because when you start to see that much time lost, you have to bring it down. A lot of one-stoppers just pit. Eitzen, the 03, Beckner's in. Almost everyone on the strategy.
Oh, Danny Ware.
I don't think Danny Ware made it. I don't know if that's going to count. He basically hit the cone, actually.
Yeah, we'll see if that brings a penalty for him.
Oh, I think Shane Wolf just missed pit entry. Maybe tried to get it down. Here comes Peachin, Evans, Devin Johnson's in. I would expect to see the 52 in this time.
He didn't. He skipped it, so Matheson will stay out again. And I don't know if I love this a lot. He's going to have a little better tire at the end, but they're going to stink anyway, so why not just split it evenly first and second half?
90 almost hit the barrels, apparently, but he got it in.
Let's see how close that was.
Wygen's in, and Sogak's coming in for a second time.
He was down here, too, already. I think he just carried too much speed around the corner. See how, again, you forget how tight that is. That is as close as you can get.
Matheson is in. You're absolutely right. That's as close as it gets. 52's in. This is almost everyone on this strategy is... Oh, my gosh. You do not get closer than that. That was amazing. As Michael Venable actually stays out even an extra lap here in the 95. So he's gone almost 63 full laps this would be if he keeps it going.
Jeremy Brown's also, I think, coming in. So this will leave...
Here comes Venable.
Yeah, Venable is the last driver on the end of lap 63. So we're past halfway in this race, about 32 minutes of racing remaining. We're still caution-free. You wouldn't believe that after watching North Wilkesboro last week. Completely polar opposite here. The 32 has run the fastest lap, but Jake Nichols is going to inherit the lead. But for how long? Marin's got 4-lap fresher tires, and he is catching.
Yeah, and with how consistent the fall-off is, a lot of tracks, the fall-off will kind of even out, and you'll hit like rock bottom of what you can run. That doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like it just falls off continuously, and it's just no end to it, so you just got to be very, very careful about that. Oh, Drew Chua is sliding in turn 2. 13 struck, he's still drifting it. Once again, that may be that's like a dozen mini wrecks. Jeez. That's all behind Jeremy Miller, who was yet to pit. I think that's what caused it. Now Miller's going to peel off.
Well, it sounded exciting. Let's go back and see. He was right. Yeah, you're right. Gets kind of stacked up, gets tagged by the 07, and the apron assisted that save. Kyle Busch 2012 shootout-esque, huh?
I say, we'll see if he can come back to win, because he was very fast last night as a bunch of drivers just came off pit lane. Lakatos, Venable, Drew Trader just came off pit lane. Jake Matheson, who is the leader on the one-stop strategy, comes out in 13th position, roughly, maybe even almost fully a lap behind.
So those that just pit or have 5 or fewer laps on their stint number there on the left side of the screen, those drivers are on the one-stopper. Everyone else with 15 or more laps on their tires are doing the two-stop strategy, and they would be expected to come to pit lane in the next 15 or so laps and hit that lap 80 number.
Yeah, that's we'll probably see some overcutting, undercutting strategy with the two-stoppers, but the one-stoppers, they just got to have the best pace they can and just go, as Nichols' older tires are hurting him now. Here comes Sebastian Marin for the race lead, and I don't know if Nichols will fight this very hard. No, he won't.
And again, this is the difference between these two isn't a completely different strategy. It's just a different variance of it. Sebastian stayed out a little longer in the first run, gave up some time there, but gained it at the tail end of this run, which for these drivers, they've still got another 13 or 14 laps. So this tells me that staying out longer is worth it for the drivers making more pit stops.
We'll just have to wait and see how it ends up. At this point, now the one-stoppers probably want that yellow to, maybe, if they, I don't know if they want that yellow to come out. They might still think the strategy's good as the two's going backwards a little bit there. Or, excuse me, not the two, it's the one going backwards. Lakatos and Beckner on fresher tires through, but yes, it's going to be interesting at this point. Don't really know which strategy is better because the 52 is the leader on that strategy, and he's close to a full lap behind.
Jake Matheson dropping off my timing.
Dropped off mine as well. Quality's not good. This would be 3.
Yeah, out of zoom as well. I wonder if there's something bigger going on. Again, I've had some weird gremlins tonight as well. And yeah, he's not in zoom either, so he's probably out.
Who does that put in the lead of that strategy? Bappy, I suppose? No? No, not Bappy.
Wouldn't Marin and Nick, well, on the 3-stop or the 2-stop? Sorry, the 2.
The 1-stop.
The 1-stop or the 2-stop.
It was the 52. I don't know who was behind him.
So the 1-stop, so that would be John Hall would be leading. Okay. He pit 8 laps ago, which puts him out front. Then it's Trey Eitzen and then Travis Beckner. And you can see in the stint lengths here on the left again, anyone that has less than 10 laps is doing the one-stopper, and anyone with more is doing the two-stopper.
Yeah, so now Hall's kind of the guy to look at for this one stop in that Tony Stewart throwback, and he was maybe a second and a half behind Matheson when they came to the pits. I didn't really look at the gap before the 52 was gone because obviously we didn't expect it, but yeah, very interesting how that's going to make things play out as John Hall is about 22 seconds behind the race leader with no stops left.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing for those that are on the one stop. You've made your only pit stop of the night. You have to take care of your tires. I mean, or at least as well as you did that first run, because you've got what you've got. You're with these Goodyears until the end of this race. Where the other guys get to come on down. They're going to give up some track position to do so, but they're going to have fresh tires and a big charge at the end.
It's tough on the one stop because you can never push.
No.
You're never gonna be in a position where you can push your tires to get by someone, or at least you shouldn't have been pushing to get by someone, especially on this last run here of 60-something laps. Peach and getting to the bumper of the 5. He's already had a slide. They're going by Jake Nichols, who is runner-up right now. Got to be careful about that, but that's the tough thing about the one stop. I do like doing less stops almost all the time, but when you can't push the tires and you just have to watch people go by while you save your stuff, it is excruciating not being able to race.
It takes
That's how tough it is.
so much patience to do that right. That's why I'm a little surprised that Beckner in particular has opted for the one stop. I would have thought that he would have been all about the aggression and getting as much as he can out of the tires, given that that's kind of the route he typically goes. But he's opted for the patient method tonight, and he currently is the third or fourth car on that strategy. So if that is the winning one tonight, he'll be in good shape.
It's tough because he didn't really have track position before pit stop started. He was about in the 10th position, so he was probably thinking, I'm not going to do anything with a 2-stop from back here. I need to try it in one less stop, and maybe that will get me track position for the end of the race. This is not fun. And that's the race leader right behind all this as well. Marin's watching all this. This is 15th position in the battle for some of these guys. That's how far up Marin has lapped some of these guys, but also some of these guys also maybe passing him, but I think he's just backed off because Jake Nichols gained maybe a second or so back. He's just letting these guys race. Jake Nichols gained 1.1 seconds that lap. Marin just letting them go. I don't think he wants any part of that, and I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either, but I wonder also, is Nichols saving some tire that Marin is not, knowing that Nichols had a little less optimal tire selection because he is 4 lap older Goodyear, so maybe that is part of it. That's why Jake lost the lead so quickly, is just conserving some of that perhaps. But David Weishart on pit lane a little soon, but he's 40 laps into this run, so he was one of the first to break earlier, and he'll be the first to break for the last stint to the end.
If I'm Nichols or Marin, I almost consider pitting right now because that line in front of me might be holding me up. Maybe you find a better pocket of air on the track by pitting right now. It's a little early for the window, but when you see 3 wide in front of you, you know that's going to slow you up. You do not want to be a part of that. That make you consider strategy, but you got to make sure you don't get lapped in the process. Grant's in the wall, kept it out of the 38 left, right front. That was wild.
A little exciting here, isn't it? And the 07 is right in the center. Where is he on track? 12th.
0. Yeah, Schaefer. Yeah, once again, it's just how
a mix of
fast
everybody.
The leaders are.
A lot of cars that are laps down kind of in the middle of all this too, making it hard to sort. I think that 90 is on a different lap. Oh, trouble! The 2 gets turned off the nose of the 69 of Peachin. And Waterworks is going to take it and head straight to pit lane. I don't blame him.
He got forced into a strategy change. I've never seen that. The 69 just made the pit call for him. Is that, oh, you're saying out, Gary? No, you're pitting. As he just kind of turned him.
See ya.
And that's very smart by Waterworth, because if he comes back onto a track, he loses so much time. It was almost perfectly into turn number 3 that it made much more sense to just pit, because he can make it from here 2-stop no problem. So that was really, really smart on his part.
Well, it broke up that little bit of the battle that we were seeing. There's the 51 of Ricky Springer. He's gained some spots from some of the attrition, most of which
a lot of pit stops this lap. Oh, I don't think Matthew Bappy made the cone. Wineland, Nolan, Bappy all came in. I don't think the 89 made the cone.
Let's go back and have a look at it on the peel down to pit lane. We talked about how challenging this place can be. Matthew Bappy running top 5, and he had to go around the 1, and then I think commits here a little late and a little fast, and he did not make the cone.
see if it's a penalty, because usually I think if you're not under it, it would be a penalty, but
I would think that it would be the center point of the car just based on how they do the other calculations, but he wasn't even close to that, so.
yeah, it's going to be interesting, because I know if you're outside of it, you get black flags for it. That's what happened to Matheson and Cup last season.
It doesn't appear that they've gotten a black for it, or anybody has so far that has attempted to make pit lane, so maybe as long as you touch it.
Now that they changed it, but I'm not fully sure about that.
So this is, and you mentioned all the pit stops that are happening. This is the lap that if you're splitting it equally up into 3 chunks, 2 stops, you're doing it now.
And Matthew Bappy did get a penalty.
Oh, boy.
And that is rough for the driver who is runner-up before pit stops. He will go at least 1 lap down.
That is a tough situation for him. But that just brings a highlight to everybody else on his team not to do that. Don't cut it that close. You can lose so much on a bad pit entry, but you can't gain all that much. And we're being told it's a hold on pit lane, which isn't technically a black flag, but either is bad.
It's almost like the same as if he sped, basically. Just 40
That's
second
a 40
hold.
second hold. That's basically a lap penalty.
Here comes Nichols, second place.
And he made it. That is a long penalty for.
It's the same as. And it's same as speeding on entry, I believe. Same amount of seconds, as we have seen too much 3 wide for a track like this. But they sorted out again as Waterworth recovering after being forced into a pit stop, as this is the final stop for Jake Nichols. We'll see if Sebastian Marin responds, and he let the 33 by, and he is going to respond immediately.
I'm actually surprised. I would have thought he would have wanted a little bit more of an advantage.
I agree, honestly.
You agree that with pitting now or waiting?
I agree with waiting. I don't think he really needed to respond. No. I think if he just overcut like he had, I think he had the speed to get back by him.
He passed Nichols easily the first time.
Well, the 73 gave it to him. Well, maybe next time won't be easy, but I think, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think if he went with the overcut, I think that was the play. I didn't think he had to respond there, but he has.
I mean, would you rather race Nichols head-to-head on pace, or would you rather have a tire advantage? That's basically the decision you got to make. Maybe he figures if he has to charge, he would burn up his stuff.
Let's see where John Hall, 1 stop. He's done pitting. He's the race leader. He has 8 seconds over Michael Venable on this strategy, and we'll see. It looks like at least 25 seconds to the 73.
So 25 seconds, and what do we got? Yeah, 35 laps, 36 laps.
I think Marin's going to get out ahead, so he had a really good pit sequence, as I think, yeah, he's going to get in front of Jake Nichols easily. So really good cycle for Marin, and it'll end up working out.
And that difference was 2/10 in the pit lane and 8/10 elsewhere on pit road. So he just got down into pit lane a lot quicker than Jake Nichols did, but only 2/10 of that, about a quarter of his advantage, was actually in the box. So that was very nicely executed by Sebastian Marin. Sometimes you get RNG'd in the pit stall, but other times you can just maximize your trip down pit lane a little better.
And this is the race now. Marin on the fresher tires, the leader of the 2-stop strategy. He's got about 30 seconds in 35 laps to get to John Hall, who's the race leader, not having to stop again. Yeah, they almost both got lapped. Yeah, so John Hall is in the orange truck here. Here's Marin right here, and John Hall right here. So it's almost an entire lap worth of time. And he's got 35 laps to get there. So that needs to be over a second a lap, but you would think that that's plenty. But right now, Marin just ran a 30.9, and John Hall ran a 32.8. That's a 2-second a lap difference. At that rate, he'll get there, but these tires will even out a little bit, and there will be less fall off at the end of the run, a lot more at the beginning of the run. So Marin, he's going to be coming through traffic here. He has a number of drivers in front of him, like Miller, like Anna Sogak, that he's going to have to get through without getting slowed up too much. It's all about maximizing through traffic for the 32 now. So is John Hall hoping for a yellow or not at this stage? I don't think so. I honestly thought he had less of a lead, as Nichols is going 3 wide on lap traffic to stay with the 32, but I think he wants this to go green. He has 8 seconds over people on his strategy. He's driven a great race. I think this is the race he wants at this point, because at this point, I mean, if a yellow comes out, it's good for him, but I think he wants this to go green. I don't think he wants to deal with restarts. Well, I think that's the key. I think yellow would equalize him, and, you know, if the strategy is going to come out negatively, you're going to want a yellow. So if he sees that Marin is now, 5 seconds behind him with, 20 laps to go, that's a big problem.
but he's got a lead like this and isn't giving it up all that much. Already, Marin just ran a 31.5, which was 0.6 of a second slower than he was just a few laps ago. I think he had some traffic to pass there, but you know, that advantage, as you said, is going to come down and equalize over the course of this run. When will the advantage stop coming is the question. It's about 1.5 seconds a lap right now.
31.4 right there. And what's important for Sebastian Marin as well is that he's not going to have to battle, or at least right now, he's not having to battle for an actual position on his strategy. He's clear Jake Nichols by a second, and he's proven to be faster most of this race. So that's the best part of him. Now he's got less traffic in front of him, I would say. I mean, he's still going to have to deal with some, but like we said, this is when he needs to make up for that time loss with this extra stop. But it's another 31.4. John Hall was about 1.5 seconds behind that. That's still enough, I think, for the 32 to get there. But that gap from tires will decrease as this run goes on. So he's got to get going. But he can't drive the tires off either. It's a really tough situation for him to be in.
So on the left, drivers that have more than 25 laps on their tires, that is the one-stop crew. Everyone else is on the two-stop. Now here's Seth Knoll. We didn't talk a lot about him where he came back out on the racetrack. He's got 5-lap older tires than Sebastian Marin, but a 2-second advantage over him. So I don't think this is a race-winning maneuver, but might not be bad strategy as he's already getting into some of those drivers near the top 5, and he'll likely finish pretty well.
He'll certainly finish solid, but yeah, probably not where he wants to be. But yeah, I suppose he is on this strategy, 2 stops with Marin and Nichols, but those tires should fall off.
It's just not
that might be a bump in the road for Marin, actually.
Yeah, I think that is, but I think Knoll didn't fully commit, right? He went a little early onto pit road, but it wasn't a full commit to the strategy that Marin did. Let's see if it works out or not.
That could have been what he wanted, because he was committed to a 2-stop. I think he figured that he had to undercut to try something to get in front of a 32 and 73. So that's kind of the strategy he's forced himself into.
Final quarter of this race, the last 15 minutes. We're going to know the situation in 15 minutes time, if you believe it. And John Hall is exiting turn 4 right now. So where's Marin? He's exiting turn 2, so that's over 1/3 of a lap gain in about 12 laps.
Yeah, when we looked at him, it was lap 85, so really in 8 laps, that's the time he's made up. So it gives him a little more time as the tires fade to get to the 0-3, I would say.
Advantage has dropped now to just 1 second a lap, which he, with 17 seconds of a gap and 27 laps to go, that's still looking pretty favorable, I'd say. But as you pointed out, as the run goes on, the worst it's going to get is, Seth Knoll.
Oh, man.
Squeezes by Patrick Moose there in 38 and leaves Patrick up against the outside wall.
It was for position. Moose on a 1-stop there, but that really slowed up Knoll as Sebastian Marin closing in, just 3 trucks separating him from what would be the lead on the 2-stop strategy, as David Weishart hasn't really been able to get an opportunity to recover from his wreck on the back straightaway. He just got by Casey Lakatos, who's in a Matt Kenseth throwback. That was for 16th. 3-truck battle for this position.
Marin has caught Moose. I think the good thing about this strategy that Sebastian's on and Jake Nichols are on, the worst you're going to do is a top 10, right? I mean, you're on the offensive and you came out of pit lane effectively 10th. So even at the worst, you know, you're still going to have a decent day. I think it can go worse the other way around, where you could end up in like Reece Schaefer's position, who's at the tail end of the 1-stoppers here. At least that's up near the front. And you're just going to get blown by all the drivers that have fresh tires here. And that could be 10, it could be 20 drivers. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how many it could end up being, as Marin's progress is definitely starting to slow, and that could be tough if it doesn't get any better. 32.1 last time by. John Hall's 0.8 off of that. I don't think 0.8 a second per lap is going to get it.
This isn't helping. 3 wide.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's a really tough spot to be in. That's not what he needs. He's not really getting through traffic as well as he needs to, as Seth Knoll just looked to be inside of Travis Beckner, and Beckner did not give up the spot very easily, but now he's by the Joker 28 truck as Beckner sliding off the corner harshly, as he'll have to give way to Marin eventually, as Waterworth will do the same. They hit a little bit. Waterworth in the wall.
Yeah, I think for Marin, you know, the other challenge is all these trucks that you're passing now are for a position. They're not going to lay over and let you go. Travis Beckner doesn't have the pace to do anything about it, but some of them that are at least on a less committal strategy, like Seth Knoll, are not going to pull over for you. So this is going to be a hard-fought run to the front here, and he is running out of time. 13 and a half seconds, 23 laps to go. The math gets harder the longer you run. I thought he was going to have a massive advantage for longer than this, but again, with all this traffic, he is slowing down quite a bit.
Big Nichols just got by Travis Beckner. He actually almost hit the wall doing it there, but yeah, I'm starting to think Knoll's probably not going to let him by. I don't think this is going to... he's down to 12.3 seconds. He's still gaining, but this is going to be really, really tight. I think we'll know in the next 10 laps for sure if it'll work or not.
And for John Hall, he does have a win this season, and it came back at Texas Motor Speedway, the second round of the season. And he scored a handful of top 5 since then, a second at Charlotte, a 5th at Sonoma, and a 4th last week at North Wilkesboro. But strategy's gone pretty well as Marin goes around Knoll.
And this is for position, lead off the 2 stoppers, and Seth Knoll, a little surprising, but also not at the same time. He did not fight the 32, so giving way and knowing the 32 had him either way.
12 seconds, it's 11.7 now out of turn 2. And 21 laps to go.
And another 4 or so seconds, really like 3 seconds to Trey Eitzen. This is a, Hall and Venable, we expect him to be up there. And Trey Eitzen's been really fast too at the bigger tracks. Had some bad luck at North Wilkesboro, but this is looking to be a great strategy for the 70.
Yeah, get a good result here, and it's been, sort of lukewarm for him this season. You mentioned some of the faster tracks. Texas, a 12th, and he had a 7th at Dover. But otherwise, 13th, 20th, 38th, 29th. It's been a little bit here and there. Is that right? I think I might have accidentally clicked the button.
He's had speed.
That was right.
He led laps at Texas. He was near the front. There's some races he has led laps, but at the front did not really get the finishes he deserved. As looks like Beckner sideways. They're just letting the 07 by there out of the corner. No, he wasn't. I
was watching his onboard while trying to grab it there. He was fighting for his life there out of turn 4. Look at him get after it. He's one of the most expressive drivers to watch when he gets up on that wheel.
Yeah, he is struggling with the right rear wear. He's still in 8th position, but he's got some drivers behind him dropping with him. Pacey Weichen's in 10th, a little further behind. It's a great run for the 00 as well, being in top 10.
Yeah, he's got some drivers that are on the attack. Joshua Valiette with fresher tires is approaching. Same with Drew Jua, and this is a battle for 11th behind it all.
Jua's looking to be inside late, kind of just showing the nose, trying to scare Valiette into a mistake, but didn't quite work, as these types of battles inside the top 20 have been rampant this entire race. This is just one of them. And Jua has started 10th. He's kind of stayed there, as Valiette has kind of moved past him through this race after starting 15th. There are some big movers. Travis Beckner started 24th, and he's up to 8th on this strategy. Reese Schaefer 16th to 7th, 12th to 4th for Trey Eitzen. But those are some of the bigger movers of the race. Jeremy Brown started 30th. He's 15th, and Weissart behind him. Even with the right rear damage, he's gone up 19 positions.
Nichols passed Trey Eitzen in the 70, and Sebastian Marin has moved into 3rd place, 8.5 seconds back, and 17 laps to go. So he is maintaining an advantage of about, about 0.7 of a second a lap. So he should still get there at the rate that he's closing. His tires fall off has sort of hit a shelf for now. It will likely drop again to get him into the 33-second bracket like John Hall, but for now it's sustaining around a 32.5, which would be good enough to get him this race win.
And I'm sure that's, at this point, if he sees that gap coming down too early, he might start hoping for a yellow, because at that point I think everyone would take 4 tires. But this is going to be interesting. The one thing he's had to deal with, he hasn't had to deal with passing traffic in a good way, but his issue is having to let traffic go in the right spots. Way different from what Marin's been having to do. They're almost doing opposite things with traffic around them.
Offensive versus defensive. John Hall's advantage now under 7 seconds. And this is when it starts to look a little bit more desperate, right? We thought that he had the big advantage, but in the middle part of the run, Marin's taken big chunks out. This is when, if you're John Hall, you're going to start to do math in your head, and you're going to start hoping for that yellow flag to put everyone back on equal tires.
Certainly, I would think so if we get to that point as Patrick Moose. These two are on the same strategy as there's almost contact there. Moose to the inside of Travis Beckner, and neither driver here will, I think, give an inch as they will go door to door into turn number 1. And you have to lift earlier on the inside when you're in Moose's position. That gives that drive through the center on exit to the 28 of Beckner, but I think the 38's faster.
Well, and he will be because he's got he's got equal tires, but there's two drivers behind him that are quickly approaching that have better tires on their trucks. And this is kind of when you get into the danger zone here late in the race. You're not going to want to give up your spots because you think you can hang on, but you've got a big disadvantage, and this can create some spicy scenarios that could turn this race on its head. We haven't seen a single yellow flag tonight, Connor, and it would absolutely change the outcome of this race if we were to get one.
Almost certainly would switch things up a little bit. Looking at the times, John Hall's going to cross the line. He's having to pass Jonathan Evans in turn number 1. This is going to slow him down because Evans is not going to concede the spot as Bryce Senesek on fresher tires passing the 38 of Moose, who are on the lead lap. That's not a battle for position, but they're 3 wide in the middle of the corner. This does not work.
And out of turn 4, they're still 3 wide. Beckner scraping the wall. The 38 will pull free, and Beckner will have to concede spot to the 09. That's not for position there, as Senesek is a lap behind, but not worth fighting that in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, but I was looking at John Hall. Jonathan Evans did not give up the spot very easily, slowed him up a 33.9 that time by. Sebastian Marin was a full second faster. I'm almost certain at this point he's going to get there. But will it stay green enough for him to get there? I think at this point, Marin's hoping to go green just until the 03 gets to him. Just until he gets to the 03, excuse me.
Yeah, Venable is going to be the next driver on the list. Now, John Hall's favorite driver in this race right now is Michael Venable. How much of a fight can Michael put up? And you can place this truck, I mean, if you just hug the inside and don't let anyone get up underneath you or don't give him the outside on exit, you can make this a little harder. But how much? I mean, the gap is 4/10 a lap. Marin's going to get a nice run here out of turn 2. And John Hall is rooting for this 95, make it as wide as possible.
And I don't think he's going to. I think he might just let Marin by, and he does, and that's not what the 03 wanted to see. Well, saying that, he holds to be outside, but grip. I don't think he has grip out there. Now there is only 2 trucks separating John Hall from Sebastian Marin.
Trouble out of 2. Patrick Moose. And he's got suspension damage. That truck's destroyed.
I think he said he had a pop-up on his screen in middle of the corner, and that is catastrophic after he was running top 10.
Here's what happened. He was all on his own with all the action around him. I thought for sure there might have been some truck-to-truck contact, but watch here, center corner, and then, yeah, you see him, just bam. Oh, and Beckner got into him as well.
Beckner got big front-end damage out of that. He's now back to 10th position, as that's really going to be a struggle for him for the rest of this race. Now he's another one probably backing for a yellow. I'll
say this. I mentioned the shelf that Marin's tires were on. I think they've crossed the other side. 32.8 last time. He is slowing down. He's still got a lot of time to make up. 3.2 seconds, and it's not falling as quickly as it was. 8 laps to go next time by.
This is Hamlin and Truex all over again from, 7 years ago. It's almost the same sort of scenario, except this is during the daytime. I think if he's 0.6 of a second faster last time by. If he maintains that, I still think he can get there. 32.816 that time by. He was a half a second faster, and John Hall stuck behind Jeremy Miller right now.
Not what Hall needs. Absolutely not. He's going to pull to the inside. He needs to go. You see Marin in the same camera shot. Remember they were like this 20, 30 laps ago? But it was the other way around, where Hall had a 3/4 of a lap advantage. 7 laps to go. 2.4 is the gap.
Oh, and Miller hung on his right rear there, slowing him up even more. The gap's down to 2.4 seconds out of turn number 4 with 7 laps of racing to go. As the 30 went a second lap down there, that time it was 0.7 of a second, the difference.
Yeah, but then put another truck between himself and Marin too, Connor. So Sebastian Marin's got to do the same thing John Hall just did, and their lap speed difference isn't crazy huge. It's big, but Marin's got a lot of work left to do in 6 laps here. It's 2 seconds now.
A lot of traffic, and it's really all up to Jonathan Evans, Jeremy Miller, Danny Ware on whether or not they let him by. Miller and Ware in a battle for position, so they don't really have to yield to the second-place driver at this point. Jonathan Evans is a lap down, not battling anyone. It should be a different story for him. But yeah, John Hall got into cleaner air and it helped him a lot, but it was still a half a second difference, but it is all about how he gets through this traffic.
Yeah, usually you'll let the leader by as a courtesy. That it doesn't normally extend anybody behind that. And 5 laps to go, and I think it's not the time, it's the trucks. Look how much Marin has to dispatch. John Hall's going to put Peach in behind him as well. 5 laps to go at Darlington, just over 7 miles of racing remaining.
Peachin does the right thing, letting him by. It's just another truck he has to get through for Sebastian Marin, and another 32.9. It was about 0.4 of a second difference that time by. That's still enough, but it needs to stay that way, as he's not really catching these 4 as quickly, as Jonathan Evans just ducked out of the way. The smart move, and I think the classy move.
He will be shouting on the radio, if he is inclined to do so, that he needs these trucks to move and skedaddle. He might get them all in one chunk, but as you mentioned, the battle's ahead. 4 laps to go. 1 second is the gap.
And this is where it's really going to hurt him, because Miller and Ware battling for position won't let him go. 33.5 for the 0-3. It was another half second, but a big hold up here out of turn 2. Danny Ware's going to get out of the way. Jimmy Miller will not.
Wow, so that's an interesting maneuver there. And Marin, he'll remember that on the Christmas cards list for Danny Ware. But
Miller
it's still 1 second, and he burned a lap, Connor.
And Miller's out of the way now, but I don't know if that was the right move. It's going to be 3 laps to go, 33.473 to about a 33.3. So that was only a 1/10 of a second gain. He needs maybe 0.4 per lap. Peachin gets in his way a little bit here.
And actually, Peachin jumped on the brakes mid-corner. Beckner to the outside. That'll allow John Hall through. 2 laps to go. The math is getting hard here.
And now Travis Beckner's in between the top 2. Marin and Beckner, I believe, are teammates, so you would think he ducks out, but Beckner's got to keep some positions here. 2 laps to go. The gain was not that big for the 32, but Beckner should let him through here, and no one else in between the top 2 now.
And it all came down to traffic management, and it burned a lot of the time that Marin needed, but now he's got 0.6 of a second. It's going to come down to the last lap, Connor.
Who would have expected this? A almost fully green race. We're not out of the woods yet, but either way, this race has been outstanding. 2 different strategies, and he has 6 more corners to try to get John Hall, and look how much time he's gaining.
Sebastian Marin has won 3 races so far this season. He would like a 4th. He needs to gain all that he's gained ahead of John Hall the last few laps, but he needs to do it on this last one. White flag, 1.3 miles left at Darlington Raceway.
He has to get close enough through 1 and 2 to be on the bumper of John Hall and maybe move him out of the groove in turn number 3. That's about all he has left at this point, and he'll have a decent run out of turn 2, but not quite close enough. How deep does he drive it?
Here we go, last 2 corners here at Darlington, 120 laps, and it all comes down to this. Contact! Marin knocks John Hall out of the way. Through 3 and 4, bump and run. Sebastian Marin is going to win at Darlington in the last lap, last corner pass. He gets it done.
That is race of the season. What a finish. What a strategy from Marin. 4 wins on the season. Absolutely unreal.
He didn't have time to waste, and he didn't.
What a race.
I think that was congratulatory there by John Hall. I think he knew that he was assisted by some of the traffic there. It was almost inevitable. But when it came down to the last corner, Sebastian Marin had no time to sit there and think about it.
4th win in the last 5 races. That was perfect. That's as well as you could execute that strategy right there. I did not think it would come down to the last lap. Played out perfectly for us watching. Fully green race at Darlington. I don't know if that's ever happened in area's history, but it just happened. 4 leaders, and the 32 was the guy all race long. Made it a little harder on himself with the extra stop, but unbelievable final lap there to gain all that time.
Wow. That was pretty unbelievable. And let's go back and have a look at the tail end of this one. I mean, it came down to the last corner, and just, he went in there and he had to do this. I don't think he would have gotten by him otherwise. Just one shot to the rear, didn't crash him, just gave him a push.
And if they were on even tires, I think Hall can get through his right rear and maybe get him back with side draft. but John Hall just didn't have the grip to do anything after the rear tires got picked off. It damaged the rear of the bumper. He hit him that hard, but it wasn't dirty. It's just enough what he had to do to get the race victory. And I thought he wasn't close enough out of turn number 2, but he had a little bit of draft and it looked pretty strong down the back. That's all it took. He just needed to be just close enough to look for the bumper.
Wow, Sebastian Marin is on a roll. Wow, checkered flag. Let's have a look at our race results and go through some of this at the tail end with the drivers in the top 3. Sebastian Marin, John Hall, Jake Nichols, your top 3. Who is your pick to win this race, Connor?
Seth Nolan 4th.
Well, not bad. I'll take the win on that, though, tonight by taking Jake Nichols in the 73. Up 1, but John Hall, and a lot of sportsmanship displayed there at the end. He could have been mad about that, but I think with that little push, I think he was showing that he was all right with that. Just hard racing at the end there, and job well done by both those drivers.
I'm sure he's disappointed about losing it that way, but that's just racing. He didn't go in there looking to wreck the 0-3, just enough of a tap to put him up the racetrack, get him out of the groove, and Marin was able to get to the line first. So that's as clean as you can do a bump and run, if you can call it clean. Venable 5th, Trey Ison a good run in 6th, Schaefer 7th, Drew Jua 8th, Balliet 9th, and Daniel Day, we saw him struggling at points in this race. He got into a top 10 by the end of the race.
Not a bad result at all for Daniel Day. Looking down the rest of the order, Pacey Wygant, Jonathan Evans salvaged the day in the 9 truck. Travis Beckner 13th after that contact with one of the trucks that got in the wall. That was Patrick Moose, who ends up down in 31st, disappointingly. But some other trucks there. David Weishart salvaging something with the damage he had. Matthew Batby, man, that was a frustrating race for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had so much to go. He probably would have been in that top 5 range, but just didn't make the commitment line. Look at all the lap down trucks. That's the crazy thing. 11 lead lap trucks. That's only it. And 12th through 24th, the lap down. Everyone else 2 laps down. Lakatos, Johnson, Shearer, Grant, Edward Shearer was one of the 3 drivers with drive-through penalties, and they never got the yellow to get them back on even footing. He finishes the best, 23rd place. Jeremy Miller, 25th. And a number of drivers who are wishing they had better luck, including Ricky Springer, whose internet put him down to 30th.
Yeah, and looking down the rest of the order here. Patrick Moose, late crash for him. James Shane Wolf, it just was not stitching well tonight. Julian Valadez had issues left and right. Started right from the beginning of the race with that big slip that almost caused a big crash. Tyler Holman out very early, and Rafe Slate and Lucas Strayer. Actually, I don't think Lucas ever even took the green, so
he did not.
That will conclude that. Let's talk to our top 3, though. Jake Nichols comes home in 3rd place. Jake, you were my pick to win this race tonight, but strategy didn't quite pan out in your favor. You take that 73 home at a podium spot tonight. Take us through it.
I mean, with strategy or not, we were 2nd at best. I still haven't figured this truck out overall. I mean, it's hit or miss. Some weeks I'm good enough, you know, obviously the road course, and then I felt last week was that was the week that I had really good pace, but either way, we'll take it. It's a great points night. Really, only frustrating thing was just the lappers. I mean, I get, you know, there's so much different like strategy there in terms of pace on track. Like sometimes you'll be the fast car going way faster and everyone passing them, or the other run you're way slower. But I feel like some of those guys just get in their own way. Getting brake checked. I saw people getting put in the wall by the cars that were slower, and I don't know. I think sometimes people try to get out of the way too much rather than just run their line and run their pace, and it causes a jam up a lot. I know Sebastian lost a lot of time there, I think in the 2nd run of the race. I think he was just wanting to get out of there. It was like 8 trucks packed up together, and it was safer going back. But either way, it was nice. I'm glad we had a hot track tonight and had a great race. You know, even if there's not a ton of battles for the lead, I mean, you love seeing green flag racing and everything just play out naturally. I didn't watch the finish yet, but I heard it was pretty interesting and entertaining, so I'll have to go back and look at that. But the Maximum Destruction 609 truck was it was fast. I think 2nd place was really where we're heading. I think if I stayed out there, Sebastian was probably going to do the 1 stop as well. So I think either way, he was probably going to be the winner. And he deserved it, obviously. He's hella quick. Same with John, and a few of those other guys were all pretty close on speed. So either way, it's a great night for everybody involved.
Jake Nichols, 3rd tonight in the 73. Jake, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And John Hall comes up one corner shy on a completely different strategy on 60-lap-old tires. You almost had it. We were just enthralled by the last 15 or 20 laps of that battle with Sebastian Marin running you down, John. So close. A little bit of contact there in the last couple of corners. What'd you see from your perspective, and what more did you need to win?
Well, I just needed the lap traffic to play out a little better there at the end. I was getting held up pretty bad, and honestly, if I had those 1-2 extra tenths there, Seb wouldn't have gotten to my bumper. But I don't fault Seb for moving me down there. I mean, it's fair game. In the last corner, he didn't have a shot to pass me clean, and I mean, we're racing for a win. He didn't dump me. He moved me, and it's fine by me. But just unfortunate. It was Jake's call too, and Jake was much better than I was. He was going to be 3 seconds clear of me and would have had this thing won easy. But unfortunate. But we'll move on with a P2.
Don, that was a thrilling finish. Sorry it didn't turn out quite the way you were hoping for there at the end, but a job well done. Great points night. So thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, well, at least the Coca-Cola Bear Celsius machine looked good up there out front. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, John. And Sebastian Marin, what a race. No cautions tonight. As Jake Nichols said, everything just played out naturally, and you're starting to look like a real natural up there at the top of the order. And Sebastian, this was your 4th win this season in 5 races, or out of the last 5 races at least. And man, it came down to the wire. Take us through that chase. I know it had to be intense in the cockpit there those last 20, 30 laps.
Oh man, you have no idea. First of all, what a race. Can't believe it went caution-free. That was amazing. So kudos to everybody in the race. But yeah, that last stint, you know, people were telling me like, oh, you'll get there easily. And as the lap started winding down, I'm like, man, I don't think I'm going to get there. And with about 3 laps to go, I had those 3 lappers in front of me that I thought at the time they cost me the chance to even have a go at it. Because I think on paper, the 2-stop is generally way quicker, but with the mixed bag of the field, catching lappers at the right time or the wrong time would really hurt the strategy. So I think John's 1-stop worked out to perfection because he didn't get held up as much as the people doing 2-stops. Because I think if everybody was a bit more closer together, the 2-stop would have been the easy call. But man, it was so nerve-wracking. And then I had a teammate in my ear telling me if I got there, to give him the bump and run, and I was thinking it over on the last lap, like, man, do I want to do this? That's my buddy John. I work with him really well. And then when he ran the bottom entering 3, I'm like, well, now I have to move him, right? Because I think if he ran his usual top middle lane, I think he would have beat me off the corner, and he probably could have won the race. But he went down to cover me, of course. And when he did, he kind of forced my hand. I was going to move him. I didn't want to lose that race after being out front for most of it. But overall, very tense, very exciting, and an amazing race, to be honest. That was amazing.
A lot of fun to watch, Seb, and boy, what a battle. Thanks for making that a lot of fun there at the end. I know, again, inside the cockpit must have been pretty stressful, but for us, it was a lot of fun to watch. A great race, and you led pretty much exactly half this one and had a 4th win to your name in the W column this season. So congratulations, and we'll see you next time out.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Seb. Well, Connor, that was a race. And boy, after having all the yellows last week in North Wilkesboro and earlier this season, we made up for it tonight by having 0, which averages things out pretty nicely, I have to say. And Sebastian Marin timing everything just right to pick up his 4th win of the season in pretty spectacular fashion.
It's everything you want in a race. You had comers and goers, you had differing strategies over 120 laps, and you had drama. I mean, you had the drama right to the very end. Lap traffic, a lot of different variables, some mini accidents, but for the most part, that's as clean of a race as you'll see at Darlington. And it was just executed perfectly. Marin just did enough to get through the traffic as fast as he did. Didn't battle too many people for too long. And like you said, John Hall covered the bottom, and that's what Marin needed to get to the bumper and get the win there in the final corners. That was pretty impressive. 4 wins in 5 races, so close to the point lead. I think Jake Nichols will still barely keep it, but Sebastian Marin, all these bonus points going towards that playoff run. He is going to be a force to be reckoned with. 4 wins at really 4 different tracks, too.
Yeah, completely on top of it is Seb Marin, and looking like a championship favorite at this stage with all that he has accomplished. And at a track where you normally have to race the circuit, we got to watch two drivers absolutely elbow to elbow race each other on the last lap in the last corner. What a battle, what a privilege. And we'll get to watch some more racing right here from the track Too Tough to Tame on Thursday with the Florida State Builders Area Pro Series. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for being with us in Darlington, South Carolina here in iRacing. For Connor Horn and for myself, Kyle Heyer, we'll see you again later this week with Hunter Sleppy and Connor on Thursday night with the Florida State Builders Area Pro Series. Thanks so much, everybody, and thanks for joining us for a great race, and we'll see you next time.